Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about elections and some primary elections that are currently going on this Tuesday involving one of our least favorite congresswomen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, that's right. AOC is up for re-election right now, and it's even possible that she could lose her seat. Now, I could see this going either way at this point. AOC has had a lot of controversy. Even some Democrats have tried to turn against her, but at the same time, she's very famous. She has a lot of name recognition, and I'm still not really sure the competition is going to be able to take her out. We're actually not really given that many details in the national news. This is more of a local thing, a New York City issue, but AOC has made herself a national star. So I think it's worth talking about here too. I think we're going to talk about more details about this election, why AOC is in trouble, and why the Democrats could be in trouble if this doesn't go right for them. I mean, AOC is supposed to be their little darling, their little up and coming. Like they bragged about her being this minority, the youngest congresswoman ever, even though now she's over 30 and she's kind of been around for a couple of years. We've seen that she's kind of full of it. She doesn't have much to do or say. She just talks a lot of trash on Twitter and is just kind of this like puppet for the other parts of the Democratic Party, mostly the extreme like Democratic socialists. That's like the farther left side. They call themselves the progressives sometimes. I might call them the communists sometimes because they want to turn us into this socialist crap hole, just like all the countries that failed with that system before, Venezuela, other South American places where a lot of these minorities and their families have come from. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is, of course, of Puerto Rican descent, and they're actually a U.S. territory, so they haven't suffered under that kind of terrible system, but they're pretty close to it. I mean, there's a lot of other countries down there that they support. They support pro-immigration, like letting everyone in from the southern border. And that's why things have been going downhill down there. And that's why it's kind of been dangerous and kind of a bad place to be. But that's besides the point. Today, we're talking about AOC, and we're going to get more into this story and the details of her re-election bid real soon. But first, let's take a quick moment to check out our new sponsor. Hey guys, I'm real excited to offer you this new service and new plan from Abunda. They will let you finance any item you can find on Amazon.com, and you can buy it by making simple monthly payments. Millions of products are an option here, and it's a really great way to save yourself some money in the short term and also to help you get that big product that you've been waiting for. They'll basically take your link, you put the link into this box right here, and then Abunda will show you the plan, and they kind of give you a payment plan. They give you a few offers. It just gives you a simple option. Like for example, these Apple AirPods are marked down to $252 and you can get them for as low as $47 a month. Here you've got this sort of first aid kit thing that's marked down to $71 and it's only $13 a month. So very affordable plans, a great idea if you want to kind of get something that you've been saving up for, or you don't want to break the bank and spend all your money at once. Abunda is a good service for you. They're really great. Thanks for your time today. Make sure you guys check out the link below. And for now, let's get back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about AOC's re-election. This article has more details. It says, can AOC win again? Who will face Mitch McConnell? Here's what to watch in Tuesday's primary. So there's a number of elections going on right now. Apparently, Mitch McConnell is up for re-election too. This stuff happens. This stuff was actually delayed a few times because there was like a virus, of course, going on, the pandemic, and they had to change election dates and reconfigure some things. That's why they've been talking about different ways to do elections, like the mail-in ballots, which you can see an advertisement for right here, actually. They're mail-in balloting now. They're mailing in more to try to get people off the streets, even though kind of ironic because these are the same leftists who go to these protests and these large demonstrations shoulder to shoulder with thousands of people. But for some reason, they think they can't vote. Like it's like, oh, I can't go to vote. Voting is a much more secure, much more worked out premise. I mean, you get in line, you could social distance. There's voting booths. They can sanitize things. I mean, it's not really as big an issue as they claim, but they still want to claim it is because mail-in voting gives them an opportunity. Mail-in voting gives the left an opportunity to manipulate things and possibly cheat. They could throw out votes or never get them delivered or change votes or vote for people who aren't really there or aren't really intending to vote. So that's the reason they're encouraging that. And that's going to play a role in this election and in our presidential election, which is just in a few months in November. So with that said, let's read on here and see where they go. Voters cast their ballots in several states on Tuesday in the latest elections to be held amid the virus pandemic that has killed more than 120,000 people in the U.S. So the media wants to overhype that. They're still hyping the virus like it's really, really bad. And it is bad. This is tragic. This is a lot of dead people for sure. But it's just contradictory to their normal messages. Like we said, these are the same people that promote these protests and tell people to go gather for these BLM demonstrations. But now, when it's time to vote, it's like, oh, everything's scary again. Oh, we can't go to vote. Same thing they did with the Trump rally. Like these reporters said one thing about the protests, but then when it's Trump's rally, it's like, oh, it's too dangerous to go. You can't go, guys. Be scared. You're going to die at the rally. And then on top of that, they kind of will make fun of the rally afterwards, being like, hey, no one showed up to your rally. What's up with that? I guess no one likes Trump. It's like, dude, you were just telling people not to go to the rally for like a whole week. It's ridiculous, I know, but that's the state of the news and the state of the biasness that's out there in the world today. The pandemic pushed multiple states, including Kentucky and New York, which vote Tuesday, to postpone their primary elections and to expand early and absentee voting in order to stave off the risk of spreading the virus in crowded polling stations. States that have cast ballots since the outbreak began have been plagued by long lines due to fewer in person polls being open and a decrease in the number of people willing to work the polls on Election Day. The continuing nationwide protests against police brutality and discrimination could also play a role in voter turnout and possibly influence who comes away victorious when the voters are counted. So notice how they frame the protests like they're not going against the protests. The protests get praised here. Like they're saying, oh, it's police brutality and discrimination. They're going against that. So that's not a bad thing. They can do that. That's fine with them. They're not going against that. They're not bringing up virus numbers when it's time for that. But when it's an election or when it's Trump rally, they just flip on a dime. They turn 180 so quick. And it's rather insulting. Like we should all be insulted by this because it just shows how they don't care about even trying to feign like its seriousness. They're just straight up telling you two different things at the same time. It's kind of like how you treat children. Like they don't care about consistency. Like it would be more respectful if they actually kind of considered us like adults or something. So this is about the Kentucky election and someone's running against Mitch McConnell. He has a 36-year Senate run. I think he might be in good shape there. McGrath has the backing of the Democratic Party, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who's terrible, and they raised a lot of money. So, I mean, that's a good challenge for them. It's possible. I'm not sure, though. These incumbents have a lot of footing. They have a lot of base already. And Mitch McConnell is a pretty big name. Booker gained national attention when he joined the protesters in the streets of his hometown after the death of Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old black woman who died in March after police officers shot her in her home. Okay, so this is just, they're like really misrepresenting this story. Now, granted, this was a bad death and this person shouldn't have died. We're not defending any of that, but they just act like police officers came in and shot her for no reason. It's like, no, they came into her house because they thought there was a drug dealer in there, and then her boyfriend or someone else in the place started shooting the cops, and then the cops shot back. It wasn't just like unprovoked violence. It wasn't just like a straight up murder. Like you're really misrepresenting the story. Like why even mention it if you're not going to give the details? Well, I know why. It's because we're reading an article from the mainstream media. They're biased and they're trying to give us this kind of liberal propaganda take. So next, let's scroll down to the next state, talk more about New York. We're here to talk about AOC. Here she is putting her glasses on like she's on a movie set or something. I don't know. That's so weird to hold that pose that way. But anyway, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Eliot Engel is facing a fierce primary challenge from three candidates, the strongest from former middle school principal Jamal Bowman. Bowman is backed by progressives like Ocasio-Cortez and Sanders, reflecting an ideological divide within the Democratic Party as establishment figures like 2016 presidential nominee Hillary Clinton have rushed to defend the 16-term congressman. So this is another fierce battle in New York before we even get to Ocasio-Cortez. And then it says Bowman's hoping to pull off an upset like Ocasio-Cortez, who defeated longtime incumbent Joe Crowley in 2018. Ocasio-Cortez occasionally butted heads with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in her quest to upset the status quo, but Pelosi has since endorsed her reelection. She is facing her first primary challenge with three candidates vying to make her a one-term representative, journalist Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who called the Democratic Socialists a polarizing, divisive force. And now we can get more on this reelection in a separate story. It says, Ocasio-Cortez faces first reelection test as progressives work to maintain their movement. So the progressives are under fire. It's a really tough time for them, too. They've got a lot to prove. They've got a lot to kind of stand up for. Bernie lost the bid. He lost his thing already again. Bernie just lost the nomination, and that was another year that he blew it. He's the big leader of the progressives. Now Ocasio-Cortez could be a one-term representative, which I would love to see. I mean, I think she's terrible for everything. She's been good for content. Like this videos we make about her have been fun, but as far as like really getting things done and having a proper representative in this major New York district, it's not a good look for them. This article goes on. It says, Representative AOC claimed her seat in the House of Representatives after challenging a longtime incumbent with the message of shaking up the status quo. Now she faces her own outsider challenger in the first electoral test of her congressional tenure. The New York Democrat knows the primary process well. Her upset victory over Joe Crowley, a member of House leadership who was thought to be in line for Speaker, allowed her to gain a massive following after the 2018 midterm election. She in turn has used the following to champion her progressive ideals, her own legislation, and pressure House leadership on major issues over her term. Now, this again is highly complimentary. I mean, this is not a very honest or straightforward picture. Let's be real, like AOC hasn't really accomplished anything. She proposed a crazy Green New Deal, which said we need to stop using airplanes and cars and all this insane, like really extreme stuff. She's trying to fake and act like she was helping the environment, but really she was sneaking in socialist plans that no one got on board for. Like turned out really bad for her. That was a terrible mess up. And that's what people will remember her by. She might keep going. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets reelected. Like these things are mostly on name recognition. So I'm not saying she's going to lose. I think it could be close, though. I think it's possible because she's also polarizing. And sure, she gets a lot of attention, but a lot of people don't like her, too. And a lot of people want someone that can be more realistic and actually get things done. That's the moral of today's story is AOC is up. She could get primaried, which is exactly what she did to Joe Crowley. She's got some pretty thick competition, although admittedly, she's got the best name recognition. She's got a very popular social media account of, this long story, 2 years of the press kissing her butt, so it doesn't matter that she failed. Like this doesn't mention anything about her failures. Like it doesn't mention the Green New Deal getting no votes in Congress and the Senate. This is just trying to hype her up. Like, oh, she championed progressive ideals. She proposed legislation and she pressured House leadership. But this isn't anything concrete accomplished. I mean, basically they're saying she pushed progressive dumb stuff. She tried to get legislation passed, but it didn't work. And then she just talked crap about House leadership, like infighting with her own party. So I don't see this as a good look for her. I see it as a highly possible chance that by the end of today, by the end of this week, she could be out of her position of power, which would greatly excite and get us all amped up. That'd be some good stories and some good news for the people of New York. But it'll be bad news for the Democrats, specifically the progressives. Like we've already seen Bernie Sanders go down and lose the primary and lose the kind of Democratic nomination. He got cheated out of it again. And now we could see AOC, the next prominent progressive, going down in flames too. Which also relates to another progressive news channel, a progressive YouTube channel called The Young Turks. They recently had their leader, Cenk Uygur, run for Congress in California, and he lost miserably. And he is kind of like doing the similar thing AOC did. He's trying to piggyback on that. They're trying to be these big progressives, but that did not go over well for him. It might not be going over well for AOC. They could all prove to be losers, just like their leader, Bernie Sanders. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also, hit that like button to help this video get shared. Share our link on Twitter, put it up on Facebook, whatever it may be. Anything helps. Thanks again for your time, and make sure you have a great day.